in?
Yeah, very good. Hey, Precious. Good morning. How are you?
Hi, good morning. I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing today?
Good, good. So we missed last week. I was on vacation, so
Yeah.
we 2 weeks. Lots of what did I miss last week? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we both missed last week. I mean, last yeah, last week was
So
an
there is a
interesting one.
bit
I
of
mean, last
lagging,
week
Precious.
we
Just
were not
FYI.
here. Oh, okay. Let me switch my switch it more stable. So you guys should give me.
Network connectivity has been issue lately. Sorry, guys. We have some exciting news this week, though. Lots of interesting product releases, and obviously I have a couple of research papers that I want to talk to you about. All right, well, Precious coming in, maybe I can just jump in with the stories. All right, the first story that I'm going to be talking about today is the Cursor Finery, Cursor AI, the most popular AI code editor now, I believe. They have finally reached version 1.0. And they made some couple of interesting changes, which I thought was directly sort of competing with Devin AI. So now Cursor has obviously agentic solution. They now have expanded their background agent for all users. And one of the interesting things that it can do now is you can invoke this agent from your Slack. So you're having a conversation in Slack and you want to say, hey, Cursor, go fix this or do a research on this bug. And it can invoke the agent in the background, which they call as a background agent, and does all the stuff for you. They obviously, there is a theme this week. It's all about context, right? Context is the king in this space. So we're seeing lots of product making significant improvement in terms of adding more context to their AI tooling. So they've added a new memory feature, Cursor, which enables Cursor now to remember your conversations and references. So you're having conversations. Sometimes I complained about this a few weeks back too, right? That, hey, I just told you my preferences. Why can't you remember? Now, as you're having conversation with Cursor, it will remember your inputs and use that for future interactions. So take a look at their change log, and you see some of the all the features they have released in the last couple of weeks. Precious, are you back? Okay, it's not. So let me see if I can share the link here. Very cool. I cannot. I will ask Precious to do that. We just upgraded to new version. Hey, Precious, are you back?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so sorry about that. So sorry.
I just continued, and that's okay. I just continued and covered my story with Cursor AI. So can you share the link with everyone?
Yeah, I shared the link with everyone. Let me do just that. So guys, if you look in the charts, I just added the link to the charts. Yeah, the link is in the charts.
All right, so I covered the Cursor story. Maybe you can start from the top then.
Yeah. So let's happy week everyone. Sorry about last week and sorry about my network. All right. So my internet service is messed up. So this is first of all, we have we've covered them sometime in the past, right? So they debuted their new AI called Magistral. So it is a reasoning model, and it's aimed at step by step logic, right? So I think it was announced on TechCrunch. TechCrunch brought the news. So it has two B parameters, Apache 2 license, and is downloadable on Hugging Face. Then Mistral Medium is higher accuracy, accessible via Mistral LE charts. It has an API and you know um, cloud partners. Also, it is work. I think this is also where we have thoughts. You know how they show you thoughts when they are going. When
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT is solving your problem, is showing you step by step how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So so it has show its work, and it's making multi-step math physics through based decision. So it's basically optimized for arithmetic solutions, and then it is easier to solve math and physics problems. So imagine when you're solving like a quadratic equation for you, and it is showing you the step by step on how it's doing that. Then this
Mm-hmm.
company claims, I mean, right now in AI, everybody is claiming that they are fast. This company claims that they are 10 times faster than their rivals, and also it is on public benchmarks, and yeah, it
Yeah.
is so
So
accurate.
interesting thing.
They're
Yeah. I
actually
mean,
even
I
saying
think.
that they are more accurate than Gemini 2.5 Pro, which I don't agree
Yeah.
with.
No, I think I believe this is sort of an interesting direction that Mistral is going, which makes a lot of sense. Um, because in open source space, there are lots of LLM models, but none of them are kind of sort of fine-tuned for reasoning. So having a smaller reasoning model is a very welcome change, because then you have something in your control which is free. 24 billion parameters. That mean you can even run it locally. So opens up lots of
Yeah,
possibilities.
yeah. I which I also find very interesting. Actually, I find it very interesting because they didn't go for the big thing that everybody's going for. They didn't
Mm,
go. They're not trying to like you know do. I think everybody's doing a coding model these days. Everybody's
mm,
coding model. So Mistral, they went through the route of um, they
mm.
went through the route of um, you know,
Yeah. Mm,
pure reasoning
yeah.
models.
So I
They
mean,
focused on reasoning.
I yeah, I like the sound bit that you have here. Magistral on top every leaderboard, but if you need lightning fast, auditable, which is interesting because this French company, I think they're big into audits and traceability, which is nice
Yeah,
because you want to understand why did you come up with that decision, right? So they have an
yeah.
audit trail, which is amazing. Auditable
I think
reasoning in
also
any major language.
having
Mm.
that also reduces things like hallucination.
Yeah.
At least you know
For
where
at
a
least you know
reasoning
where
strain of thought. You can
if
say,
it
"Oh,
went
what is
wrong.
that?"
It's funny. I feel like a couple of weeks back we covered a research paper on how maybe it was Claude, right? Had a paper on how model thinks and where
Yeah,
it goes wrong in hallucination and stuff. So it's really good stuff.
yeah. So I think the other story, maybe I
Yes,
should go
please.
cover the
Mhm.
next story again since I wasn't here for a while. Is a story from Claude. So we all know Claude. He's one of our favorite guys on this podcast, especially with MCP. I think we started this podcast around when they started MCP, when MCP
Mm,
was new. So they shipped remote MCP support for cloud coding. So it's their command line agentic
mm,
coding tool. So this is a command line agentic coding tool that gives you remote MC support for Cloud Code. So basically, because I watched a video on how this
mm,
thing works, basically what it works is that um, you don't need to run MCP
mm,
locally, from what I understood from
mm,
the video. Yeah, so you don't need to run it locally. You can now run it in your code, right? That's number one. And number two is that you can run it in your code, and it is online this time around. So you can easily connect to hosted servers by vendors like Zapier, Asana, and this model will automatically pull in context from those tools. So I believe that if you're listening to this podcast, we've talked about MCP in the past, or you hear us talk about MCP a lot. For those that are hearing for the first time, MCP means Model Context Protocol, and it is a protocol that helps an agent talk to a tool or maybe another agent.
Data
So
source.
a Tublian can to talk to a data source. Yeah, so Tublian can be a data source. Let's say we are supplying you with a list of developers all over the world, right? So we can create our own MCP. So you can connect to our MCP and get the data from us. If you want to think about it in simpler way, you can think of it in terms of API, right? So yeah, so basically what they're saying, normally you run this locally on your computer, but right now you can actually do this online, and then you can run it from your command line. Just point Claude Code to any MCP server hosted by your vendors like Linear, Zapier, Asana, and the model will automatically pull in the context, choose the right tool calls, and act on your behalf. So it automatically runs on your behalf. You just do all this without running a local server. That is the trick here. So why it matters is that it helps you stay in the flow. So if there's any issue or there is anything, you get to catch it early. Or if you know if there is, without leaving the terminal, you get to catch everything early without leaving the terminal. No infrastructure tax, so you don't need to pay for extra server let's say you're running a server on AWS, you don't need to pay for that again. So secure out of the box, of course, is very safe. So Claude can now fix OAuth to remote server, so there are no API keys to juggle. So everything is like gets safer. They are now safer. So guys, if you want to check it out, if you check it out and tell us what you think, or if you build any interesting thing with you, just drop it in the comments. You can come back to this episode and comment on it.
This is
So
this.
what do you think
Yeah,
about
no, I
this?
mean, this is excellent. Going back to, like I said in the beginning, this week's theme is context, right? So now sanitary errors
Yeah.
and linear issues, that mean Cloud Code is not going after your bug reports or your project management tool to get more additional context about the issue that it's trying to solve. So this makes this tools more powerful. So context is where everybody's going after. So I see that trend happening with Cloud Code too. And remote services, MCP services is kind of nice, right? You don't have to juggle with Docker instances and all that stuff. Cool stuff. All right, so my next story is
Cool
going in
stuff.
the same veins. We talked about cursor adding context. We talk about Cloud Code is adding context by MCP servers. So obviously GitHub will not stop, right? He's going to follow through. So GitHub Copilot added a new concept called GitHub Copilot Spaces. So if you go to, I use GitHub Copilot a lot. If you go to what's the URL? I had it open just now. So if you go to GitHub, GitHub Copilot /Spaces, it gives you an interface where now you can sort of add knowledge base to your Copilot. So let's say your project has documentations, or sample code, or if you want to, this is almost like Cursor project rules. If you want to set up rules like, hey, for this project, always follow this kind of styling, or even a customized system prompt, all that is now allowed using GitHub Copilot Spaces. So this gives an interesting aspect of now you have much better control over these tools, and GitHub Copilot is going to be smarter to pull in this knowledge base whenever it's needed. So I highly recommend doing this stuff because I know adding more context essentially helps this tool to perform better.
Yeah, I mean, someone said somewhere I went to on Saturday that AI is data, basically, that AI is basically data, right? So giving extra data source, extra information is obviously going to help. Is obviously going to help you get better outputs because, of course, AI, like we said, rely heavily on data.
So it's
So yeah, I think
it's an
it's a
interesting
good one.
because
And also coming from GitHub, Yeah, go
Go
on.
ahead, please.
I just wanted to say that coming from GitHub, I think is also like a very interesting one.
So it's kind of interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like they're probably obviously learning from each other. Cursor maybe a few a little bit ahead than other tools out there. They're all trying to compete and catching up, that's why competition is good, right? So this forces everybody to be on their toes
Yeah,
and
competition.
improve their tool. No, so I was going to say is that we keep saying
Yeah.
that prompt engineering, but I think prompt engineering is evolving into something is more like context engineering. And this is not my term. I saw that on Twitter. It sort of makes a lot of sense to me because the
Oh,
majority
wow.
of the work about crafting prompt, because these models are really good at now. I mean, if you make, my prompts are crazy, right? I have lots of typos and stuff. I just say, do it. And models are becoming so smart now, it sort of figures it out. So you don't have to no longer do it that much of here is the context, here is an example. Then the key differentiator is becomes nowadays is about how much context you can provide in the prompt. So it's not prompt engineering anymore,
Yeah.
it's probably context engineering. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is why I think RAG, in as much as we think that
Yeah.
RAG is a little bit going out of fashion, but RAG may still around for a very long time because
Mm,
people might want
agreed.
to. It's also another way,
Yeah.
yeah, for people to provide
Yeah,
context,
because if you
provide more
think about it,
information
there is a
publicly.
limit, right? I mean, oh yeah, I will add my whole code base as a context, but you cannot do that. There is a limit. Then
There's a
RAG
limit, yeah.
techniques comes into the picture. Okay, you might have to do summarization. What kind of retrieval knowledge I should? Because from task to task, context might change, right? For an example, Claude
Yeah,
code might be working on front end code base versus back end. That would mean the context might be different.
yeah.
So, um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I was trying to work on something. I am on free
Mm,
GitHub, free
mm,
ChatGPT, and I was trying to work on
mm,
something. It was an Excel
mm.
sheet, so I copied the whole sheet about 200 lines, and I figured that only 50 of those lines could enter.
Uh,
And I was like, shit, I had to keep, I had to tell ChatGPT to take it 50 by 50. So I had to tell it, okay, I'm providing you 50 by 50, but I want you to act on it. I mean, it still made a lot of mistakes. It was a lot of hard work,
mm,
right? So, and I think I'm just trying to give an example of a context problem. So when we say context window, that is what we mean, when you are limited on what you can
mhm,
put in.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. So we
So
couple
yeah,
of race. Okay, you want? Why don't you take the next one, the story number 6, maybe?
our guys, Google. So Google Gemini 2.5 model family, they have this flashlight model as a cost-effective, low-latency reasoning model, right? So this new addition is to Gemini 2.5 Pro and 2.5 Flash, right? So this flash lit model is so I mean, you know how these models are expensive or they can be expensive. So this
Mhm,
is a way for them to like make it cheaper, you know. So they have, and they are saying that this flashlight has the lowest latency and cost, and the cost
mhm,
is way better, right? So it's way
mhm.
better. So
It's
they are
just
offering you almost the same thing, but at a lower cost. Yeah, at a
yeah.
lower
So
cost.
cost is almost like 2.5. They're versioning. All
Yeah.
those versionings are so confusing. Uh,
Yeah.
but
I
speed
don't know why
matters, dude. The
Google.
latency is good. Latency is good. I wonder whether we could use this for our biz dev agent because I'm really worried about the latency that it takes for our cover letter generation. I might try this out. And
Yeah.
it's cheaper, right? We need something that's faster and scales. And it doesn't have to be like high precision, like code generation, right? It's just a content generation, like a text generation. So this could be,
Yeah.
so yeah, so this is all trend, right? Because O3 has drastically reduced the price. OpenAI.
Oh,
That's creates lots of market pressure
yeah.
for some of these reasoning models. Is it a reasoning model? I believe so, right? Flashlight.
Yeah, it's a
Mm.
reasoning model.
So
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
reasoning model.
yeah.
So I think it's also, I don't know why Google does a lot of model. I think I'm even tired at this point. Sometimes I don't know what the model. So on Gemini, they have this mathematical
Mm.
model, right? And then they also have
How do you do? I know, man.
reasoning
This is
model.
becoming, and we talked about this too. I think maybe we should create this episode just focus on model selection, because it's getting into the point where I feel
Yeah,
like I can optimize a lot of stuff using right model selection is becoming sort of a skill now, right? Selecting
yeah.
right model for the right job.
Right
Why
model,
you
yeah,
should
for
do that?
the,
Yeah, why should you do that? Because it's obviously going to improve user experience. It might improve latency and it might help you save money.
it can even be
So
faster. It
it
makes
can be
some
faster.
time. Yeah,
So I I mean, it cannot be. So this is also, I mean, I sometimes default to, when I use ChatGPT, I always default to O3, but it's slow. And sometimes there is sort of a workflow, but GPT-4o might be good enough for what I'm trying to do, right? Day to day, like refine this, refine that.
yeah,
So yeah, I need to have a strategy now. I feel like I don't have a strategy. I randomly pick model. Um,
yeah.
that's probably not the right thing to do. Anyway, that's a good problem to have. We have lots of selection now, so that's good. All right, the next
Yeah,
series, I'm super excited about this. We have a couple of research papers today. And
yeah,
this is from Microsoft. So we're going from Google to Microsoft now. So Microsoft did a research, and we'll share the research paper with you guys here. Uh, is about a code researcher. So they build an agent which is sort of combining coding agent with deep research. Okay, and
yeah.
working on a large code base. So the goal objective of this research is that can we build a deep researcher coding agent that can run large code bases? And the code base that selected was Linux kernel. This is probably one of the most complicated code base you can select open source. So that's got my attention about this paper, because there are so many papers out there, but this one was interesting. So they built an agent that sort of has a three-phase so analysis, synthesis, and validation. What it does is that unique aspect of this is that when you assign this agent a task, it just doesn't typically do like what other agents does. I mean, figure out which files are affected and solve that. The part of this, what makes this unique is its deep research capability, which they're calling is a deep context. What it does is that
Okay.
it's going to go through your Git history and try to figure out in which commit or which set of commits this issue was introduced, this bug. Okay.
Yeah,
So it's just walking
yeah,
back the history to gather more context, almost like a deep researcher. And they have
yeah.
noticed that this particular feature of walking through the Git history increased the success rate by 10 points.
Wow.
Just going back, just gaining a deep context itself improved this to success by 10 points, like 10%. So they got more sort of context around this. And it was able to
Wow.
solve, what's the number? There was a pretty impressive number. Yeah, the code researcher fixed 58% of the cases, um,
Wow.
smashing the other baseline, which is 37.5. So it's a huge improvement. Um,
Wow.
Yeah, so this is just shows you the possibility of where things are heading into right now. Sort of you can have this sort of agents working behind the scene while you sleep, working on understanding your Git commit, your history, and all that context. Just makes these
Yeah.
tools better. So context matters, like we're saying. The key points is the
Yeah.
LLMs, the right slice of code and history bit stuffing interfiles. So right now, if the way we did it, or the dev agent, and I think typically that's how most of the agent works, right? Given an issue,
Yeah.
it will figure out all the files that's changed. It might use rack to get summary of the files. In some cases, they feed in all the files. Okay, here is the 10 files with all this code, fix it, right? But what I have done is that instead of that, it might matters to give them more relevant context of why this issue happened, when it was happened, which files was changed. So version control essentially becomes gold. So that we have a gold mine, which is Git commit history. And I think we are just
Yeah.
slowly seeing some of the agents taking benefit of that.
So he uses that Git commit history as an additional resources, like a data,
Mm-hmm.
additional data to make better
Mm-hmm.
decisions. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it, you know how make tiny change, right? Tiny change AI and in the
Mm-hmm.
industry totally, and then it goes on to change almost everything, right? Regards to deep context gathering. I mean, apart from deep context gathering, it kind of now goes through this context, deep deep reasoning on it to be able to come up with like
Mm-hmm.
better outputs. And
Mm-hmm.
I can remember when the first time I saw deep reasoning, I was angry. I was like, "What is this? Just get straight to the point." I never really liked it. It was on um, the guys from China. I think it was DeepSeek. DeepSeek were
DeepSeek,
the
yeah.
first place. Like, yeah, they were the first ones the first guys that showed me deep reasoning. And now, having things like this and having more context, which means we are going to get like better results, and we can be able to have, so it's one tiny change, but then it changes like a lot of things, and it opens a door of or a lot of opportunities in the
Mm.
in the AI space. Yeah, so it's an interesting thing to see. It's an interesting one to see.
I think you are up
So
next with, yeah,
yeah,
LLM.
yeah. So this is something I saw this and I thought I should share it. For those of you that join us, you listen, or whether you're watching back, play, or you're joining us live, and you are here, you want to learn AI engineering, or you want to learn machine learning. So there is a course by AWS. Um, it's a course by AWS. I'm trying to share the link in the chat. They partnered with Audacity to provide this course, and this course
Mm.
will help you learn machine learning, AI, and let me put it on the screen so everyone can see. Yeah, so that is it. So if you can go to that link, it's in the chat. If you check the chat, you're going to see it. So it's an interesting one. It's for beginners. There's a nano degree also at the end. And if you follow through with this, it's also interesting to know how AI engineering is now a thing. I was listening to the lady that wrote a book on AI engineering. I think AI engineering handbook or something like that. I saw it recently. I was
Mm.
listening to her. And then to think that a year ago, or 2 years ago, let's say, 2022, 2023, AI engineering wasn't really a thing, right? But this is
Mm.
2025, and some people are actually just AI engineers. So what you talked about, knowing the right model to use, they focus on knowing, oh, what's the right model I can use? How do I use this model to build this
Mm.
particular agent? How can I do this? So
Mm.
these AI engineers, they focus on these things, and they know, oh, okay, how do I quickly deploy this? What's the best place to deploy this? How can we make it faster? How can we tweak the data? They just focus on this as AI engineers. And I think it's something very interesting that is something very interesting. Remember how we used to always talk about AI is going to take our job, AI is going to take our job. And then I think it was you who mentioned that also new jobs are going to be created, right?
Mm.
And then this is a new role. It wasn't really
Mm.
there before now, right? I mean, we had ML engineer, deep learning, deep research, deep learning engineers. We had machine learning engineers working on AI. But right now, you can just be an AI engineer. Just
Mm.
look at this
Oh,
model.
so this is
Use it.
this is for technical folks or non-technical folks,
Yeah, it's for
or both?
technical folks. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
okay.
for both. Yeah, it's for both. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
check
interesting.
it out. Yeah,
Yeah, future
and
AWS AI engineer, AI scientist. Uh, Here we go. Some new roles are coming up in the market.
yeah,
Speaking of that, so
yeah.
maybe we can jump into. Do you want to cover the Minimax open source MI or?
Yeah, so Minimax is an open source AI startup based in Shanghai,
Oh, I never
China,
heard of them.
obviously. So, yeah,
Okay.
so they I think they did about 5 releases in 1 week. So they kept on releasing
Oh,
different things, right?
I see.
So MI boasts
Oh, another
of
another long context AI. Interesting.
yeah, 1 million tokens with an output capacity of up to 80,000 tokens, right? So
Mm,
long context, and this is open source. Everybody in China is in open source.
mm,
So so it's a long context window. It has very long context window, and it is very efficient. Also, like
mhm.
I said, they have over 1 million tokens, and the output capacity is about 80,000 tokens. It is very efficient, and it runs on ex- hybrid mixture of expert architecture. Maybe Nick
Oh,
can
like
explain.
Mistral, like
Yeah,
Mistral.
yeah, and it's also combining this with lightning attention mechanism. So it is designed to reduce computational overhead, and they claim that this M1 consume only 25% of
Mm,
FLOPS, which is the floating point operations required by DeepSeek for generating 100,000 tokens. So they use um, lesser resources to generate 1 million tokens. They say they use lesser resources than DeepSeek to generate more tokens, output tokens. I mean,
interesting.
yeah. So they said is trained for low cost. So it is
Mm,
about it's trained for low cost of around 534,700, a fraction of competitor. Yeah. So that's the amount they used in this
where we
$534,000.
can find them? I mean, these
Yeah.
numbers are impressive. So for them, the model was trained. Okay, so they trained it in a low cost. This is you said open source, so we can find it in Hugging Face then, or where?
Yeah, yeah, I think we can find it on Hugging Face. I
Okay,
saw them on
Minimax
Twitter.
M1. Mm.
Saw them on Twitter last week Thursday, and I took note of it. I watched a couple of their videos, which looked very
Oh
interesting.
yeah, you can easily access with VLLM and Hugging Face Transformer Library.
Yeah, yeah,
The model supports structured function calling, so it does have function call, so agentic capabilities. Interesting.
yeah.
How do you decide which one to use? It's becoming an issue. Uh, all right,
So
so
I
I'm
guess
going to
I
jump
guess
in.
this is why the scale of AI engineer now matters. They decide which one to use.
Mm. So this
Yeah,
is your new skill set. So we keep talking about like, does it matter for engineers to know API calls and or
yeah,
matters to because we keep saying no, it doesn't matter. You just call Ask ChatGPT what API or code generation to use, right? I guess now skills have transformed
yeah,
into now it matters to know which model to use when. That's a skill of an AI engineer, like you
yeah,
said. I would love to have
yeah,
someone like this
yeah,
because I struggle too. So people will pay money for that kind of skill. So
yeah.
there you go, a new skill evolved. All
Yeah.
right, we have 8 minutes. I'm
New
gonna jump
skill.
into the main story. So main story is sort of related to what
Okay.
Precious talked about the the new Scholar course that AWS is offering. And this is a research paper that I found. I thought it was fascinating. It's not related to coding. It's definitely related to AI agent. That's why I'm covering the story. It's about future of work with AI agents. And this research is done by Stanford University, a researcher. The unique aspect of this research is that, we covered lots of research paper about how AI is changing software engineering. They focused on what about other type of works, right? I know AI is changing how we build software, but what about accountants or salespeople, marketing folks? So,
Mhm.
so that's why this is sort of interesting. So what they did is that they audited. So they took two parameters into. They audited the worker's desire That means, hey, do you want to use AI for your work with actual capability of AI agents? Okay, so they looked into around
Yeah.
844 different work streams that is categorized by US occupation and created a new data set called Work Bank. Okay, so their process was fascinating too. It's
Okay.
not like a survey question that he sent out. They actually had audio mini interviews so that they can understand the nuances of how you express yourself, what do you feel when you think about AI. So took all those kind of emotional aspects into account and sort of chart them out. So I'm going to jump into this. So that they created different categories. So the first category they created is a green light. Okay, so this is a section
Okay.
where workers are begging for automation. They're saying, "Give me more AI. I want to use AI." Okay, that's a green light zone. This are 46% of all this tasks the worker desires. So 46% of them in this green light zone express interest, saying that I need automation. I don't have enough automation. These are essentially, I mean, you sort of guessed it. These are all
Okay.
repetitive, low-value jobs that people don't want to do anymore, man. It's like schedule an appointment for me, do a daily check-in report, prepare meeting agendas. This is stuff of the type of work people don't want to do anymore, which makes sense, right? AI is really good
Yeah.
at. On the other hand, red light zone, this is sort of interesting. Red light zone is where AI can do it, but workers don't want AI. Okay,
Hmm.
they don't want to use AI, even though AI
Yeah.
potentially can do that stuff. I mean, I think software engineering sort of fails into that too, because we as an engineers like to
Yeah.
design. I don't want an AI to help me, but I don't want AI to architect my solution. Maybe that's an example of that. So this
Yeah.
is a red light is more like a creative identity defining work, right? Um, I sometimes struggle with that. If AI is doing everything, what I'm doing as an engineer, right? So what makes me an engineer, or those type of
Hmm.
work where I feel like, well, why should AI do it? That's my job, sort of thing. So
Hmm.
this falls into sort of game designer saying that I want to craft the production schedule, or art directors is saying that I want to figure out the layout of this. This is my role. I don't want AI to do it. That kind of job.
Hmm.
This is interesting for startups, though, right? That means if you're building solutions around this space, you have to be very careful because there are going to be lots of resistance from people using them, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that you have to design it. So the key aspect here is that people are much more willing to augment their process, but never think of
Yeah.
replacing them. Right. So I
Hmm.
think the co-pilots is a classic example of that, right? I do brainstorming with Claude and Chat GPT when I'm thinking of a solution, right? But
Okay.
I never get the feeling that it's creating for me. I always feel like that we are co-creating together. So as long as we have that
Yeah.
emotional feeling of we are co-creating, you're fine. The moment it feels like I'm just sitting back and doing all the work for me, then I might have an identity crisis. So that's a red light zone. Um, they
Hmm.
create an R&D opportunity. This is like workers really want AI to help them, but technology is not there. AI is not capable to do that. That's sort of an R&D
Hmm.
zone. That's more like I mean high-end R&D research or or data analysts asking for, hey, turn all this data into polish charts and tables for me, that kind of stuff.
Oh
What do you think
yeah.
so far? I mean, this is fascinating stuff. Some of this are obvious though, but
It's very interesting because a lot of people don't talk about the green guys.
mm,
Not everybody talks about them.
mm,
Yeah, and the green guys, I believe, are the guys that are, growing the industry, expanding it, right? I
yeah,
wonder why nobody talks about
yeah,
the green guys, the guys that are saying, "Oh, you know what? Give me this AI. I'm tired. I want to use
mm,
it. I want to use it. Can it make my work easier?" And I think those are the guys that we should be building for
yeah,
because when they get it,
mm,
they try to convince every other
mm.
person. do it.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, one thing that
When
came
they
out,
get to the
yeah, one thing that came out that makes sense. Collaboration is the king. Like 45%
yeah,
across the board prefers an equal human agent partnership, right? Workers want co-pilot
yeah,
that think with them, not over them, right? It just needs to have a sense of feeling
yeah,
that I'm in control, right? Uh,
yeah.
yeah, so that's one of the aspects that.
So I think that's another thing with the guys in the red. They don't want to lose their
Mm.
jobs.
No, no, in the
The
green
guys in
also,
red. I mean,
you sort of co-creating, right? And green also, you're saying automate the
yeah,
repetitive tasks so that I can focus on more creative tasks.
yeah,
So there is a skill shift, obviously. Now, since agents now can handle data, our human value sort of migrates into more soft skill heavy task, right? So
hmm,
this about if if you're a project manager and AI is generating all your project reports for you, what are you adding, right? Then I know there are
hmm,
lots of things you can add, but then you come into the picture adding the the nuanced stakeholder updates, the minor details, or some emotional connection that's been missed through the data, right? You spend more time
yeah,
on making motivating teams, right? Making personal connection. Now you have lots of time to do all that because data crunching is done by agent. So those skills sort of becomes more
yeah,
important.
yeah. So I mean, there is someone shared a
Mm,
concern of data with me. The person said that people are taking more from ChatGPT than they are giving. But with Google, people were giving more than they were taking. So people is optimized for questions. A lot of people were asking questions. But currently in ChatGPT, people just go and drop a prompt. Help me write an article on this, and then ChatGPT just spits it out. Now, it is they are now having issue. I don't know if this is true, but he said something like, "Oh, them having issues training the model because the the information is they're having difficulties training the model because the model is sort of like um sorry, I think I lost my train of thought. So what I'm trying to say is when you ask ChatGPT a question,
mm,
right? That question, the ability for it to learn from the question that you ask it.
mm,
Yeah, so that's sort of what the guy was trying to explain to me. He said people take more, they just ask one line and they get 10,000
mm,
lines. So they don't give it more. So, but it will be better if people give it, oh, see this article, edit it for me. Now it takes that article as a data and it can also sort of like using those data to be able to retrain itself.
mm,
So why this is an sort of an issue is because people post less on Reddit these days. I mean, people, I talked about, blogging. People don't want to blog again. They think that nobody's reading. They rather just do videos on TikTok, right? So, and this data that we have that we are creating, sort of, what
mm,
point they are going to
mm,
reduce, right?
mm,
So, how do we still make sure that the models that we have that they keep getting better?
mm,
If our data is going to reduce at some point, how do we keep making sure that
mm,
these things, the models are getting better?
mm.
So that is
Yeah.
the conversation.
Mm.
So I mean, I think we'll find out
Yeah. Yeah.
when we get there.
Yeah.
We'll just wait till we get there and we'll find out.
Yeah. And there are other
Yeah,
techniques they
we'll
do
wait till we
now
get
with the reasoning model. I feel like data is important, but I think the feedback that you provide is also a very critical aspect they use for learning. Oh, this answer is crap. You made it wrong there,
yeah,
and
thumbs up or thumbs down.
those are very high value signals. Um,
Yeah.
all right, cool.
All right.
That's it, guys.
So that's it. A lot of I think we were able to like put in 2 weeks
Yeah,
because it feels this is a
I'm
lot. We
sure we
covered a
missed a
lot of
bunch of
things
stuff,
today.
but
This is
yeah.
almost 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, we missed a bunch of stuff. But yeah. All right. Sorry about last week. See you again next week. Next week, Monday. a lot of interesting things. Like you already find out on this podcast, we already have like a lot of things going on every week. A lot going on every week. So see you next week, guys.
Yeah.
Enjoy your week. Yeah.
All right. Take care.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah, bye.
Bye.